Hello and welcome. So this is episode 1 of Chris Chandler-Yates podcast. And what we're going to talk about on these podcasts to come is we're going to talk about what it is that we can do to fight burnout and what burnout looks like. Now, along the way, we're going to be interviewing people. We're going to be talking to everyday people from, you know, maybe the grocery, checkout person, all the way up to CEOs of businesses. We're going to talk to first responders because you'll find out here shortly, I'm a huge advocate for first responders and their mental health. And you'll find out why here. We'll talk about it in a second. But we're going to interview all sorts of different people. And what we're going to really look into and find out about is what it is that makes them or has them enjoying what they do every single day. You're going to have times where you're feeling burned out, where you're feeling drained. But what is it that these people who are loving what they do to lift themselves back up, to get out of that stage, to get out of that state, so that they can come back in moments, or at least in a day, and be back there full passion, full drive, knowing that they're making a difference or whatever it is that they do and they focus on, so that we can learn from them. And along the way, I'm gonna tell you my stuff, what I'm going through. We're gonna talk about what's going on with me when we don't have people to interview. So let's start with, what is burnout? Burnout can show up in so many different ways. And for me, burnout showed up when I was in the police. The first time I noticed it. I didn't even know what it was. You might not know what it is. But I'm going to tell you my little story so you can see what burnout might look like for you. So my background is I grew up sailing around the world. Did my teenage years from the age of 13, just before 14, until I was 17, almost 18, sailing around the world with my parents and my little brother. We had a 40-foot catamaran, started in the Caribbean, and sailed through to New Zealand, where I now live. I'm originally from California, so that's where we started in the Caribbean, bought the boat in the Caribbean, and sailed through the Panama Canal, South Pacific, and ended up here. During that time, being a kid on a boat, I was doing homeschool. I learned and got set up with a lot of really good foundations of you can do anything. I yacht raced on multi-million-dollar yachts at the age of 14. At yacht races such as the Heineken Regatta in St. Martin, Antigua Race Week, Antigua Classic Regatta, then Friday night races all through the Caribbean, then through the Pacific, and then once I got to New Zealand, I used to do Friday night races in Tauranga and also in Auckland. Haven't sailed in about probably almost 8 years, but that was my past. So it set me up with a lot of good things and a lot of excitement, things that really enjoy. Then I went on and I joined the New Zealand Police. And I decided I wanted to join the New Zealand Police in 2009. Did everything and anything I could to fight for it, to get there, build my fitness. I was a fit and healthy guy, grew up on a boat, I was swimming all the time, could swim for days, could bike for days, couldn't run. So I had to work to get that. While I was in the police, though, I was in the police learning new things. And within 2 years, I had some incidents happen where I had a female partner that I was working with. I went to go arrest the guy. She got assaulted, and I took it to heart that it was, my fault. Now, this wasn't my fault, but it was the start of my initial burnout. And for me, burnout the first time, it happened majorly twice. It happens to us all the time. Every single day, you'll have a little phase of it, or it might end up a little bit worse. But I'm going to go to worst case here now with me. First thing that happened for me is that incident I put as a turning point, and I started to give up. Things became too hard. I became so focused on what wasn't happening that I lost what was happening. And I started to get burned out because I was draining myself so much, so focused on work. So, and I had been up until that point as well. I was about a year and a half, year-ish into the police. I've been so focused on work, I wasn't looking after myself. And so what ended up happening was I ended up taking it out on other people. I didn't feel a whole lot. I went to some advising jobs where you tell somebody that somebody's passed away. For me, they're the hardest jobs ever. And I've retracted even more. I started to get even more burned out because I was on such high alert, watching people all the time, thinking other people were bad, thinking that, everybody was out to get me. And then telling somebody that somebody had passed away and not actually being myself and truly me. So how burnout started to show up for me was that, and I didn't even realize it at the time. Maybe you don't realize that you're, feeling really drained. Maybe it's just something just doesn't feel like you. And I knew that I didn't feel like myself, but I didn't know what was going on because I didn't know what burnout was. And what it was for me was I wasn't doing the things that I loved. On days off, I just want to sit around and do nothing. I didn't want to talk to people. I'm a very talkative guy. I'm a very passionate guy. And I wasn't wanting to go out and recharge my tanks. I wasn't wanting to go out and, do the things that I love to do, which is talk to people, interact with people, be around people, go four-wheel driving, go swimming, go connect with others. All I wanted to do was be alone. And it showed up in a form of depression. And then the anxiety that went around the depression of I'm not good enough, what's going on with me, and not talking about it, in turn, dug me even deeper. And then it got even worse to the point where I wanted to run away from anything and everyone. And that's about the point my wife went, what the hell's going on? I said, nothing, I'm fine. Subconsciously and even a little bit consciously, I knew I wasn't. And so she kept going on. She kept, asking me what was going on. Remember one incident was I was at my in-laws and my father-in-law's house, and they was like, "What?" He went to her, "What's going on with Chrissy? He hasn't said like 2 words tonight." And she mentioned that to me, and I was like, "Wow, actually, that is not me, is it?" Again, talkative, chatty, outgoing person. And so I started to get burned, and I started to not enjoy what I was doing. So how I got through that was I went to a counselor. It took me a while, I'm not gonna lie. It took me a couple months to be able to go, yeah, cool, I'm okay with going to a counselor, and that's okay. And I realized that I was trying to run away. I was just wanting something different. So about this time, I went for, things were getting better. I was talking to counseling, working things out that I needed to do more things for myself and that maybe I needed to look at other avenues. And so I started looking at other avenues, and that's about the time that I fell upon my protection. So I was like, oh, cool, something new, something exciting. Sergeants were backing me to go do it and that. So I went off and I did that. But 4 years later, it came back with a vengeance. Got burned out again. I found I wasn't looking after myself. And so by not looking after myself, by going and doing the things that I love outside of work, not focusing fully 100% on just work. And, I was doing stuff outside of the police, but it was all focused again towards work. And yes, I was passionate about my job and what I was doing, and I knew I was making a difference, but I wasn't doing what was recharging my tank because I was getting drained so much at work because I was so high alert. And so I went through it again. This time, what tipped it was yelling at my wife again for stupid shit, like leaving a cake tin in the cake carrier in the car and feeling like everything she did was wrong. But what really tipped it was I was at a dinner party. She was away overseas. We were already going through stuff, had counseling booked in for the two of us, thinking that there was something going on with the two of us, that I wasn't burned out again because I didn't, think that I was. And going, okay, cool. Yeah, we got counseling. And while she was away, I was looking at somebody else at that dinner party, at that just kind of get together, going, how can I go about cracking onto her? How can I go about actually making a move. And that moment there, I knew I was burned out again. I knew that it had nothing to do with this situation. It had to do with that I wasn't full within myself and I wasn't enjoying myself and me. I was so drained, so depressed, and blaming everybody else for not taking care of myself. So I went to counseling again, and the counselor was like, "Chris, you burned out." I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm good, Doug. No, you just don't like cops." That's literally what I had in my head. She's like, "No, Chris, you're burned out." And the dark wolf, which I now have tattooed on my shoulder, I didn't even realize it at the time that was the meaning behind not being able to do a white wolf on my shoulder. She went, the dark wolf and the white wolf were fighting, and the dark wolf is winning. The white wolf is just sitting there waiting for you. Now, the dark wolf is all those negative thoughts, all that. Just go relax. You don't need to do anything. Just be on your own. Everybody's out to get you. And the white wolf's sitting over there going, "Chris, you can do this, but you have to want to." So through a long journey of self-care, looking after myself, and focusing on what I want, not what everybody else is telling me that I need to get, I was able to come back. For me, it took a big, drastic change. And I went off and I went to the States. And I did a 2.5-month motorcycle trip camping around the US. Luckily, I was, financially and that able to do it, even though it was really tight. And I had a very supportive wife who was alongside of me, to support me. And I refound myself. I refound my passion. And now that passion and that why drives me every day. But I still get burned out about every 6 weeks. And it's okay. Because it's not as bad as it usually is. It's not as bad as it used to be. I feel it. It starts to happen. And I go, "Oh, okay. I'm not taking care of myself enough." Because sometimes it takes more than little things. It takes big things. So for me to stay going and be extremely busy as I am, I'm even more busy than I ever was in the police. You know how busy police officers are. My challenges that used to be difficult are easier because each day I wake up and I tell myself 1 to 3 things I'm grateful for. I tell myself at least 1 to 3 things that I accomplished the day before. So grateful wise might be just that I woke up, that I've got a puppy curled up next to me, my wife's next to me. There's 3 things. That I am healthy and I am secure enough that I am able to get up every day and do what I love. There's like 5 things. Pretty easy, yeah. Things I accomplished. This morning, I told myself yesterday, I made a difference to like 20 people just by sending 1 email. I connected with people by sending 1 email. I made a step forward in my business because I kept fighting for it and I focused on something new. I sold 3 fitness programs yesterday. There's 3 things already, 4 things already. So that's what I do every single morning. And then I get up and I go do some sort of activity. I'm a huge advocate for fitness. If you don't already know, I obviously own Knocking Demon Fitness, where we train people to get into the police, both physically and mentally. And the reason that's there is because I'm such a huge advocate for fitness. Fitness is, whether it be going for a walk or it be going and throwing heavy weights around doing CrossFit, or it be powerlifting, or it be going for a run. Fitness calms the mind, it gets the blood flowing, and it makes us healthier. And then I come home and I eat some good food. Now, I don't touch my phone until I'm about to go to the gym. And even sometimes I put it on do not disturb when I'm at the gym so that I can't get distracted. Because I set myself up to win. And I recharge myself every single morning. And then on those days, like I said, every so often, I'm like, oh, I'm pushing hard. I'm doing lots of work. I got to go for something bigger. So I'll go off and I'll book myself in to go do a motorcycle ride. So many of us that I hear about spend our weekends with our loved ones and doing what they want, or with our kids. You can't be there for them if you're not there for yourself. So it might mean that you need to take a couple hours on the weekend if you work Monday to Friday, and you can't take a day off in the middle of the week. You work Monday to Friday, and you go do something for yourself that you know recharges you, and it changes all the time. Mine sometimes is just watching TV, just chilling. It's taking the dogs for a walk, maybe. It's going out and going for a hike. It's going for a swim in the cold water of a river. It's going for a motorcycle ride. It's catching up with friends and buddies, going out to dinner with some friends, taking my wife out to dinner. It changes all the time, but you got to look after yourself. These are the tips I have for, staying successful, staying driven, and really knowing why I want to do what I do, and keep pushing through when things aren't going so well. So those are just, this is episode 1. And I hope you got a lot out of that. Sorry, I just accidentally stepped on my dog's foot. So I hope, I know you would have got something out of that. And I know that you will love this episode. And we're gonna keep going. The next episode, I'm gonna talk about my why and driving right through, and why that's so important for me. And then I'm gonna get some people on here, and we're gonna start interviewing some people and just see what it is that they do to keep themselves lifted up, how they identify when they're getting burned out, or when they're feeling like they just don't have the energy to push as hard as normal, and what they do to get that drive back. So again, thank you for listening. This is episode 1. Remember, keep going out there, get hard, train hard. I always say train hard physically and mentally, so that if you're ever tested, test days easy. Love you all. Till next time, this is Chris Chandler-Yates, signing out.